What is up, gamers? Welcome back to another Predecessor video, and for you guys today I wanted to get the tier list out a bit earlier than last time that I did. The balance patch was significant. Majority of the changes didn't mean too much, but there is actually some definite adjustments on some of these heroes that I definitely want to get into. Let's get right into this one. We're gonna start with Countess. Countess still remains in A tier. I do not think she changed at all. I do think she's being picked much less, but honestly, she is probably still a very decent jungler. I am surprised not seeing her picked too much, but maybe I'll do a video actually on her, showcase a little bit of Countess in the jungle. But I do think she is overall A tier. She's not a bad champ, definitely in the middle of the pool. We move to Crunch, who was also A tier for me, and I think this champ is actually pretty solid. Again, I do think he's middle of the pool. Nothing really changed about him. There's a very good bruiser build path for him. Also another champ that I definitely want to do a video on. So yeah, I think definitely A tier and definitely still above Countess. I think Dekker is one of the stronger supports in pub games. I do think she is less strong in more competitive games and tournaments and stuff like that, but for pubs I do think she is very good. She has a lot of pressure when roaming. She has a lot of lane pressure, a lot of damage with the new items. I do think she's very good. I do not think she hits the top two tiers, but I do think she is above average, so we are gonna put her in A+. The unfortunate thing with Drongo is that he technically still wants to build crit. Of course, you still want to go on hit because it is the superior build, but because of that, because of the way his kit works with crit items, he does feel the most hit out of all the ADCs. Of course, ADCs are still very strong all around the place. I remember ranking him low tier A, but I think that was a bit unjust for him, so I'm going to put him right above Countess this time. Feng Mao was a champ that I didn't quite like when I first did my tier list. I think he was pretty poor. I think he got slightly better on this patch. Not by much though. I do feel like he can play offlane a bit more. You see him counterpicked or being a counterpick, sorry, in some offlane matchups. So for that reason, I do want to put him in situational, but I do still think that he is on the lower end of the tier list. We move to Gadget. Something that people don't understand when I do rank Gadget is it is so different to rank Gadget in pub games compared to competitive games. So if I were to rank her for competitive games for stuff like ranked, I would probably rank her A tier, maybe at the bottom of A+, although I probably put her at the top of A tier. But because she does need to scale, she is pretty slow in mid lane up to a certain point in pub games that usually do not really get away with it. And for that reason, I do have to put her a bit more situational than I'd like. But I do think she's generally like in the middle of the pool as well. But because we're rating it through a pub game experience, I do think she falls just slightly lower than where she should be. We move to Gideon, who I think is definitely the best mage in the game. He offers too much. His roams are very strong, very lethal. His ultimate is game-changing in team fights, and of course he is the safest mid laner there is. Of course, this champion does a lot of damage too with items like Combustion and the new item Noxia. You can also go more ult-oriented build with Bracelet, which is usually the play style when you're getting towards the later end team fights. I do think this champion is, of course, S tier. Absolutely one of the strongest champions in the game right now. I actually played the Greystone game recently, and I was actually very impressed at what this champion offers to your team. With how good ADCs are right now, I feel like Greystone is one of the better tanks in the games. I did rank this guy at A tier when I did my list, but looking at it now, I think I have to put him up a little bit higher, up to A+, but probably at the bottom of A+, if I'm being honest. But a slight boost to Greystone. I do feel like I slightly underrated this champion a little bit. Alright, we move to Grux, who is probably the easiest offlaner to play. With how easy he is to play, I do feel like it's only fair to also rank him high because of that. But of course, he's so good with the items that are really strong this patch, and he's probably is the better offlaner when you just want to play pub games. He also is pretty good in jungle for the first 25 minutes of the game. He will always be full health. He will always have pretty decent ganks if you go an item like Berserker-X as well first, just to get a bit more move speed running through a fog wall and trying to gank a lane. I do think this champion is pretty damn good, probably also S tier alongside Gideon. I'm not the biggest fan of Iggy, but Iggy is definitely not weak. You can go that one item that increases your AP when you hit them with max range and scale. That way you can also go something like Obelisk to just be scaling on off scaling. I think that build path can really work for him, but it's a little bit greedy, of course. With what meta champs there are in mid lane, he kind of goes even with them, so he generally should have a good place in the meta. With that being said, I would probably put him at A tier near the end though, because I still don't feel too comfortable ranking this guy higher than what a lot of people are suggesting. I do think he's decent, but I don't think he is that good. We move to Kallari, and I've actually been messing a lot with some Kallari offlane. I don't think it is actually her preferred role by any means, but it can be a little fun into lanes where there's a bit more kill pressure and it's not a tank. That is usually pretty fun, or Grux as well. Grux is very fun to play into. That was a joke, by the way. But anyway, I do, however, think that Kallari was slightly underrated from my part. I did put her in B tier before. I do think she actually does go in A tier, though. I don't think she is bad by any means. I do not mind seeing Kallari at all. I think she can expose some very broken champions in this patch. But of course, you still run into a problem where late game they will just try to not let you play a team fight. So for that reason, I am going to put her in A tier. I think that's completely fair. We'll put her right here. Khaimera is so strong right now. The items really benefit him. Something like Sky Splitter, something like Kingsbane. Of course, you still have Berserker-X, you still have Gaia Greaves. So you can go multiple ways with his build as well, which is really nice. This champion is very fast in jungle. If you want to go the cleave item first and you just max your RMB, but you don't have to do that. You can just go straight into Berserker-X and max your Q instead for more cleave through the ability. So you have many options of how you want to play. They all work. It feels all really good. His kit is pretty good. He is currently very strong. Also a very high pressure jungler. So for that reason, we're gonna put him at the top of A+. I feel like I was a little bit wrong on Kira. I put her as the 5th best ADC, although I did put her in A+ before, and I think that is also where she's gonna go today. I do think she is the 3rd best ADC, not the 5th best ADC. Her trading pattern in dueling is very good. She is very good into Grim as well. I don't think she is generally a bad option. She scales pretty damn well. She can occasionally 1v5 team fights if played correctly. You have options with the crest that you want to go. You also have some options with items, although the build is kind of locked in. So for that reason, I am going to put her at the top of A+, just after Kai, though. I feel like this might be fair right here. If I'm being honest, I rated Belica C tier before, and I think it's only fair to just keep her in C tier. I don't think that my opinion has changed on this hero. I still think she's pretty weak. Every time I see Belica, it doesn't really work in mid lane. It's been working a bit better in dual lane, but overall, not thoroughly impressed with this champion at the moment. I do not think she is that good. We move to Morigesh, who I think is an absolutely probably top 4 mid laner in the game. She is very strong. I think there is like 2 actual mages ahead of her, and then another champ who can actually play mid lane but is not a mage. I do think she is very strong, probably at the top of A+. If I had to choose, I think I put her A+ before as well, but I don't think my opinion is going to change. I am actually going to put her right behind Kai as well. I think this is a fair position. We move to Murdock. I think Murdock I rated at A+. I do want to drop him down to A. I do think he's very good, but currently he cannot really play into the meta ADCs that are in the game, that are very strong with the on-hit items. Of course, you still go on-hit items, but generally his play pattern does not feel that good to me. And I do think that you usually want to get an all-in on dual lane with Murdock, and I feel like he needs enough items to do that. So for that reason, I think I am going to put him at the top of A tier, but he does unfortunately fall down a tier from A+. We move to Muriel. I rated Muriel, I think A+ before. I think I was also wrong on this one. I think she is definitely the best support in the game right now. I had Narb above her, but looking more into it, seeing how people are playing pubs and just generally the control that Muriel has in these team fights, I think she is definitely the best support right now. I think her synergies with top ADCs right now is also really good, and you can also just be everywhere on the map with that ultimate. So for that reason, another S tier champion. I think she goes right up here with the other 2 champions. As I already mentioned, I did have Narbash above Muriel before. He did get slightly hit in the latest patch. I do think he is still very good. Is he probably S tier anymore? I don't know. I think he is either at the bottom of S tier or at the top of A plus. Just because of the nerfs, I'm gonna put him at A plus because I haven't seen too much Narb recently, because he definitely got hit, but I think it was only justified that that happened. I believe that FaZe probably has remained around the same over I ranked her last time. I did put her A+. I think she is still over there. Of course, having an on-hit meta throughout ADCs just means that FaZe is going to be one of the preferred supports in the game. I do think that she is slightly outclassed by Muriel and perhaps Narb, although that is probably closer. I do think that she is still at the top, so I'm going to put her in the middle of A+. I think this is completely justified for FaZe. I'm seeing Rampage picked up a little bit more now that tank items are a bit more desirable. I don't think he's as bad as he was last patch. I don't think he's unplayable, but comparing what there is in B tier, comparing what there is in C tier, and comparing what there is in A tier, I do think that he probably falls around the category where Lt.Belica is. Still not one of the most desirable champions in the game. He is playable, probably a bit more playable than Belica, so I'm going to put him at the top of C tier. So I don't think Revenant has the bug anymore, but he still has a really bad build path. So for that reason, I still cannot rank this champion high. I still think he is very weak. I am going to put him at the bottom of C tier again. I think he is still probably the worst champion in the game, but you probably have some good matchups in dual lane if you play a little bit for him and get him to snowball a little bit, but that might be a bit too much to ask for, so I'm going to put him at C tier just because of his build path. Riktor is being picked up a lot more than Rampage, actually, which I'm very surprised now that tank items, of course, got slight buffed. I did put him in B tier before. I think it's unfair to keep him in B tier now. I do think he offers really good CC, so you can generally play him a bit more in jungle, for example, maybe in offlane. I think he is a little too weak for support still. I think he just takes too much damage from these ranged ADC, not ranged ADCs, sorry, but, well, ADCs and ranged supports like Muriel, like Dekker, like FaZe. So he's a bit countered on that regard, so I'm going to put him at the bottom of A tier. I do think he's a bit better though, so definitely give him a try if you haven't. Serath did get a slight buff to make her late game a bit better. I do think she's unironically better in offlane than she is in jungle, but that usually means that you need to play much better than your enemy offlaner to get just a slight lead on your laner. She's still good. I just don't think she is good enough to be put up higher than probably right about here. We move to Sev. I'm also seeing some Sev picked up, which is pretty interesting. I do still think he is probably just about the same where he is. I had him at the bottom of B tier in my previous tier list. I still think he is probably around there. So not much to say about this champion except just probably better in jungle than he is in offlane, honestly. Unless you have a free lane where people are not really trying to abuse you early on in offlane and they just don't generally understand how the matchup goes, or they are just not experienced enough players. I think this champion suffers quite a bit in offlane, so I'm still gonna put him at the bottom of B tier. Shinbi is a pretty good champion. I feel like when you want an AP top laner, you probably do want to go Shinbi or Kwang. For a more damage-oriented offlaner, though, probably Shinbi is generally more preferred. I do think she's very good. I do think she's sitting around the middle of the pool, but I actually think she's sitting at the top of A tier than what I had her previously. I did have her at about here previously, but I do think it is a bit unfair to actually put her behind Crunch when I do think, in fact, she is probably at the top of A tier. A lot of people still think that tanks are bad. I think Steel makes you regret saying that, because I think Steel is absolutely fantastic and you can still go damage items on this champion even if you are playing or trying to go tank down throughout the game. In your third, fourth, fifth, sixth items, I think you can opt for items like Razul, items like Ella Frost, Flux Matrix, Fire Blossom. All these items are all tank items, all give you a lot of tanky stats, but they still give you a lot of damage to have kill pressure in your lane. I think this champion is very underrated, probably one of the better offlaners in the game. I am actually gonna move this guy quite higher up. I did have him in A tier, probably around here in A tier, I believe, but I'm gonna move this champion up to A+, at the bottom of A+, but I do think he is probably one of the top two tanks in the game alongside Greystone. Everyone sleeps on the Fae, man. I think the Fae is good, it just really sucks when you are getting hate crimed in mid lane, and that is her issue right now. She can get hate crimed and be put behind, but of course, the Fae can still be the Fae. You can still scale with her. She's still very good. I don't think she is generally like insane or bad. I think she's in the middle of the pack, so I'm gonna literally just put her in the middle of the pack. I think this is probably where I would put her. I'm gonna put her ahead of Howie because she does have a good matchup into Howie, so that's my only reason why I'm gonna put her right here, just in front of Howitzer. A lot of people are hyping Twinblast after the recent changes. I did have Twinblast actually high on A+. Recent changes do make him better as well, but I've been looking at TB, of how people are performing TB, and I'm not too impressed with what I've seen. I still think he is A+, but I think he is at the bottom of A+, even with the recent buffs. So although he did get buffed, I think I just rated him slightly too high up in my last tier list, so he's actually gonna fall down just a little bit on my tier list, but overall he is definitely a bit better. I just think that I miscalculated what I thought I knew about them. We move to Zarus. Zarus is probably one of the most contested picks in ranked. If you guys have played ranked on Saturday, you would have seen a lot of Zarus being picked, probably in many roles, in offlane, in jungle, and sometimes if you're into lobbies that people understand the game a bit better, you can also see him in support. I think he works completely fine there too. Of course, he's preferred in the other two roles, and I think he is probably still very broken. I am going to be putting this champion in S tier as well. I think he is probably S tier right behind these three champs, though I don't think he's ahead of these three champions. The amount of people I've heard complain about Sparrow is absolutely insane. Now, do I understand why they're complaining? Yes, I do actually. I do understand why they're complaining, but I do think a lot of people are valuing her a bit too much. And what I mean by that is I feel like people just assume that she's very easy to play because you don't really have to aim with the ultimate. You just hold left click and stuff like that, which is generally true. It is generally true, but I do think there's a bit of a, as people call it, a bit of skill issue to try to shut her down or just to play around it, right? I think there's many ways you can deal with it. I do think she's very unsafe, so you can easily put her behind too. And if you have a very strong ADC who can abuse a Sparrow early on, I do think you can get away with that. Of course, she does scale really well, and her 2-item spike is really good. So I'm still gonna be putting her at S tier, but I do think when I had her probably right here before, I'm gonna put her a bit lower on the S tier scale. I still think, of course, she is very broken. Just people need to calm down on thinking that she is the best ADC in the game. We move to Wraith. Wraith feels a bit better. There's a little bit of people cooking with Wraith. I like seeing it. I think it's pretty interesting seeing people mix his build, go a bit of hybrid build. It actually doesn't feel too bad. I did rank this champion pretty low last time. I am still gonna rank him low because I'm still not really confident in saying that this champion is a bit more playable than he once was. The mana nerf on his snipe feels really rough for him, and the stacking items for mana are pretty bad. So for that reason, I am going to be putting him at probably the top of B tier once again. Iggy Scorch, still one of the better mid laners in the game, probably top 3 mid laners in the game. I think this champion is absolutely broken. He offers everything, like I've said many times. He has lane pressure, he has objective control, he has a lot of damage, he can build all the debuff items in the game, such as anti-heal, such as megacosm. He's very good in pit fights, he's very good in objective fights, he is just generally pretty good at split pushing if you really want to do that too with his turrets, although I do not really recommend it. I think this champion is absolutely broken. He probably goes just about here in S tier. Kwang is pretty damn good, man. I feel like Kwang has a really good item choice to build from. He can go damage early on and then itemize into tank as well. That is probably how you wanna play in offlane nowadays. Itemize into damage, less tanky, and just try to go with there. I see a lot of people going something like Fire Blossom, Tainted Guard, into Flux Matrix and stuff like that. It's too tanky. You don't really have any kill pressure doing that. So go a bit more offensive items like Ella Frost, maybe Fist of Razul, sometimes even Magnify, although I do not recommend it too early on in the game because you kind of want it if you have more AP in your team. So I do think he's very good. Where did I rank him last time? I think I ranked him maybe A+. I probably ranked him at the bottom of A+. I think it probably is fair to rank this guy at the bottom of A+ again. I think I will put him at the bottom of my plus. Yeah, I think this is completely fair. Argus has been buffed, actually, the latest patch, which he definitely needed. I had this champion second worst in my previous tier list. I think the recent buffs definitely make him a lot better. How much better? Don't quite know just yet, but it is much better. Of course, I have a window of where I think he is right now. He's probably from the bottom of B to the top of A. So that's kind of where I'm hinting for. So I'm going to write down the middle, put him at B tier, at the top of B tier though. I think he is definitely improved. I still don't think he is the preferred mage to go for, but he is definitely much better, probably better still in support. We move to Grim, the most broken champion in the game. This guy is so ungodly broken. I swear, if you guys are not complaining about this champion, I feel like you guys have not played against people who understand how to hit auto attacks. Once he turns his E on and just auto attacks you to death with that move speed slow, it just feels impossible to deal with. He has the range, he has early lane pressure, he does a lot early on, and he is probably one of the best scaling ADCs in the game. He is very good in mid lane too because of his spell bubble. He is the only champion, he's the only ADC who can really contest other mages in the game right now. In mid lane, so early levels mid lane. Most mages are really good right now that you kind of just only want to play mages in mid, but of course Grim exists and he will just run you down. This champion is absolutely SS tier. I only made SS tier on today's video just for Grim, just because he is this ungodly broken. He is that good. The final champion is Aurora. I think she is very good of a champion. I think last time I did put her either at the top of A or at the bottom of A+. I do think she is generally pretty good. Again, you kind of want to build her like Kwang, deal some damage early, and then opt for more tanky items later down the stage. I think she is very good in the jungle. I think she is pretty decent in offlane as well. I don't think she is amazing in offlane, but I do think she's still pretty good into some matchups. So I am gonna put her at the top of A tier once more. I think this is probably a pretty good rating. You know what? Actually, I'm being a little bit mean. I think she goes at the top of, at the bottom of A+. I don't think she goes with these champions. I think she is just slightly better. This has been my tier list for patch 18.3. Hopefully you guys do enjoy these kind of videos. If you agree or disagree with my ratings, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the current balance in Predecessor and what you guys have been enjoying playing and what you guys have not been enjoying playing against. I will see you tomorrow for another Predecessor gameplay video. Peace out, gamers.